Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Sony Xperia Z3 Compact. Back about almost 1 year ago, it was known as the small flagship. If you wanted the phone with the best possible qualities in a small form factor, there was no other way around than to get the Z3 Compact. 1 year later, is this still true? Personally, I didn't see much competition in this space, but how well did it age? Is it still recommendable? Is it still a great phone? Let's find out in my full review and start off with the design and build quality. Quick comparison with its bigger brother, the Z3. Of course, since it's called compact, it is more compact. It is narrow quite a lot, actually, as you can see here, also a lot shorter, therefore a little bit thicker, but that's okay. As you can already see here, the button placement for me is not that great on the Z3 Compact because it is almost perfect for me, at least in terms of the power button on the Z3. And on the Compact you can see it's quite a little bit lower, also here for the buttons. And the buttons just don't feel and sound as great because it doesn't really click on the Z3, but therefore you get a nice haptic feedback. On the Z3 Compact though, it's clicky and just feels a little bit less premium, but that's it. One thing they did quite nice though is hide the flaps here. And I personally actually think this looks more than like a Z2 Compact than a Z3 Compact because they don't have that much in common. Because as you can see here, the curves are completely different. And this makes quite a big difference because this lies so nicely in the hand because of this curve. And this one, since it is thicker and has less of a curve, feels a little bit more boxy and bulky in the hand. Sure, one-hand use is no problem because it's just so small, but it could have felt even more compact if they would have maybe made a little bit more of a curve or maybe made it thinner, but therefore of course we would have lost more of battery size. Otherwise we have the camera here we have the flash, on the top we have a microphone, headphone jack, and on the bottom we have a microphone, lanyard card, and here under the flaps we have micro USB, micro SD card, and under this flap we have the nano SIM. For some reason, at least on my review unit, this won't completely close, as you can see here. And after about 10 seconds, it will open. So it definitely wouldn't be waterproof, which it usually is. But since it is a review unit, who knows what happened otherwise. Here we have the magnetic dock for the charging. All that is quite nice. So it definitely feels very nice in the hand. The glass here on the back is definitely not the same as on the front because you can hear there's definitely a difference here, and I can't really tell what it actually is because from what we know they use Dragon Trail and Gorilla Glass, but no one is actually sure for it really on its own. But it feels great in the hand, it feels quite substantial, it feels quite solid, but there is a little bit room for improvement. Okay, let's get to the display and check what we've got there. We have a 720p 4.6 inch display, and I don't see any issues in terms of resolution because the display is so small and the PPI is still great. No real differences to the Z3. Yes, the Z3 sometimes just looks a little bit sharper, but in normal use it's not really different. Also for the white point, quite a nice white point, and I want to show off the difference compared to the bigger brother because it is definitely a big difference here because the Z3 is known to be coldly calibrated, as you can maybe see here. The Z3 Compact is definitely a lot warmer, but therefore also has the better blacks. Black levels are definitely deeper and don't have the blue hue we have on the Z3. Also, as you can see, colors. They look a little bit more vibrant, a little bit warmer, and in general I would definitely, in terms of quality and calibration, give this one the win. Both are very bright, sunlight readability was no issues at all, colors pop more. The white is better, the black is better. So just in terms of pure quality, this is a really excellent display. It's maybe not the very best out there. It still sometimes looks a little bit dull, especially in some certain areas. But in terms of colors, they did a so much better job, as we can, for example, see here in G+, is maybe where you see the biggest difference in terms of reds. Because the red on the Z3 just looks a lot better. So I would say we saw the display, it's a really nice display. What about the sound? Let's check that. You don't really have to worry about blocking it actually because it's a front-facing stereo speaker. But just because it is a front-facing stereo speaker doesn't mean the sound is amazing just because of that. I would definitely have to complain. Maybe if you can call it complaining, it could be a little bit louder, because I've seen a lot of budget devices from LG, for example, that just were louder. And in most cases, for me, especially just when I'm outside with people outside, the sheer volume is a little bit more important, because the sound quality is nice. We have a little bit of bass, the mids are nice, and the highs are also quite clear. And it doesn't really distort as much as the Z3 did, because the Z3 on its highest level distorts quite often quite a lot, which this one doesn't. But I would still wish for at least 10%, maybe for a little bit more reserve in terms of the volume. But still great otherwise. As for the performance, as you can see here, what we have open, not too much, because I want to show you how fast actually the loading times are and so. But still, the browser was already open, just for you to see. It is super smooth. Almost no lag, no hesitation or anything else. And if we go, for example, here in a Twitter app, there is quite often a little bit of micro stutter and a little bit of lag, but nothing you should really worry about. So it's just not maybe as smooth as the A10, but the 801 still does an amazing job, because I did a few direct side-by-side comparisons, and the 801, at least in a few of my tests, was actually the faster one. Maybe not as smooth, but definitely as fast. As you can see here, loading times are really nice, and the scrolling, like I said, is almost perfect. But we have quite a lot, but just small stutters. As you can see here also, G Plus works very well. And sorry for the display being a little bit too bright and therefore a little bit of overexposed of the screen. But also multitasking, as you can see here, works absolutely brilliant. We have 3 GB of RAM, so no problem, no reloading. 5.1.1 does a great job. And just let's try if the game is actually still loaded. We have, okay, that one wasn't already in the RAM. So we had like 6 apps running, and it had to reload the game. If it was a little bit less, then it could have maybe worked without. What about the gaming performance? Actually, no problems here at all. The 801 still is a flagship CPU and handles games absolutely flawless. As you can see here, frame rates are stable. It does slow down a little bit more than I usually know it from, as you can see here sometimes. But in all the other games it works quite well. Yes, we see a little bit of some odd slowdowns here in this game. But in general, the gaming performance was definitely all the time playable. No real complaints on this side. The 801 is still, even in 2015, an absolute flagship. No problems. As for the battery life, charging times are 1 hour 60%, and after 2.5 hours at 100%, quite okay value. Nothing special anymore with quick charge these days, but still okay. As for the battery life itself, let's check those values here, because I actually did expect a little bit more. Not that I'm disappointed, but I just thought it would be better, closer to its bigger brother. Here we can see 1 day and 3 hours, almost 5 hours of screen on time. This was all done with 70% of brightness. Here 1 day and 70 hours, so almost 2 days, close to 4 hours, but we had only 83%, so we would have gotten over 4 hours, or at least 2 full days. So expect 2 days and 4 hours of screen on time should be possible. Here we can see 2.5 hours, 50% used, so we would have also have a lot again. Here this was a little bit of a less great value, but still okay. And here you can see 72% used for 2 hours and 40. And once again, 33%, so 1/3 of the charge with 1 hour and 46. So even that would have been more than 5 hours. So what I would expect to get 1 day, solid 5 hours or close to 5 hours, and over the course of maybe 2 days, 4 hours, or at least close to that. Personally, the standby drain didn't seem that great. It was less than 1%, but not that much. The Z3 definitely did a little bit of a better job, because there you get solid 6 hours, and I expected something like that, because I had runs where I was at slightly or close to 2 hours at 1/3 of the charge left or gone. So I would have expected 6 hours, and I'm pretty sure if you just lower the brightness a little bit, you can get away with that. But for its size, solid 5 hours, or I think people should get even 6 hours. This is still more than respectable, still a great value. As for the software, yeah, I personally like the Xperia UI. As you can see here, this looks a lot like stock. This maybe doesn't, but if you just check the menus and so on, things are very close to stock. And I think, at least for me, I always say the same. This feels like a themed stock and nothing else. We have a few little enhancements like image enhancement, also sound enhancements with an equalizer and so on. We have double tap to wake, as you can see here. Sadly though, no double tap to sleep. This is something I'm a little bit missing, but there is not much added. Pretty much they added their Sony software suite, which in some cases can be a little bit bloated. They added an equalizer and a few sound enhancements, same as for the display enhancements, but otherwise it is pretty much a themed stock and I have no problems. This device is already running on 5.1.1, but I only use 5.1.1 for 3 days, the days before I use for 5.0.2. And this leads me to the last part, that would be the camera. In 5.1.1, I think personally the autofocus seems a little bit more stable because it's quite flaky on 5.0.2, but still good. Pictures, still, we only have auto mode with 8 megapixels. The pictures could be sharper because we have a 20.7 megapixel sensor, but most of the shots, if done automatically, just are 8. Personally, I use an exposed module that gives me the full 20 megapixels in auto mode as well, and I definitely noticed an improvement. So if you want the best quality out of there, you should root your device and get exposed. Otherwise, the colors are quite nice. Sometimes they can be a little bit on the more flat, washed out side, a little bit not that saturated, but actually in most cases even closer to reality than something, for example, like the S6. And I did a comparison in my comparison against the Z3 and S6, where you can see how well the shots compare just in terms of S6 camera quality and Z3, so you can maybe check that as well. Video quality as well was good, no problems here at all. So the camera is a really good camera in auto mode, but it can be exceptional if you use it in auto mode properly. But I personally think if you just want hassle-free shots in auto mode, there are definitely a lot better cameras. In manual mode, it's really great though. So let's get to the recap then. Design and build quality, no real complaints here. Okay, I have this with the flap, but otherwise it feels great, it feels substantial, it's really nice in the hand because compact, and I definitely know the benefits of being able to use a device with 100% of one hand use if I want to. So really great here. I also think it's very grippy. Some people say glass on glass isn't, but personally I think it is. As for the display is very, very good, almost flawless, better just in terms of quality than the Z3. Also quite sharp, still no problems here at all. A really, really bright, saturated, nice display. The sound, in terms of quality, is really nice. We have all the good balanced sound. I would wish for a little bit more of maximum volume. Not that it isn't good enough, it is good enough, but I would wish for a little bit more reserves, just because I've seen a lot of even budget devices with more sound. Performance still in 2015 is absolutely flawless with 5.1.1. It is super smooth most of the time. There is a lot of small little stutters, but that really doesn't diminish the whole overall experience because it's a very zippy device and one of the fastest reacting devices, very responsive, and this is what I really like so much. So in-app performance is very great. Also multitasking is very great. It is maybe not as great as it was on KitKat, but Lollipop in general just doesn't handle multitasking as well. Apps just can't stay any longer, but with 3 GB you are safe here. Also games are fine. On the software side, nothing much to add. I like the Sony UI because it is just a themed stock Android, works very well. A few little enhancements, nothing bloaty besides a few apps, that's it. And the camera, once again, also very solid. A really good camera, but just not great in auto mode. With manual mode and a little bit of effort, you can get great shots though. Just real quick for once, the XDA support. We have root, we have a few custom ROMs, but definitely nothing out of the ordinary. So if you want a really proper AOSP custom ROM, this is still not the device to go for because I still see too much bugs there for it to be really considered as a custom ROM device. So almost 1 year after its release, would I still recommend it? Yes, absolutely, because I still recommend everyone who wants the bigger device, the Z3, because it is still my daily driver. I still love it. It is definitely maybe not as super smooth as the A10, but definitely battery life is amazing, and everything else as a whole package, it just works great, and everything in a smaller package still works on the Z3 Compact. And the big benefit, it still has no real competition, because I still don't see any small flagships. The territory here on the Z3 is definitely a lot tighter now, but this still is great. But you should maybe have one thing in consideration. We will soon get a Z3 successor, the Z5, and I'm pretty sure we will get a Z5 Compact as well. But if you can't wait, or don't want to wait, and want to save also money, because this one is fallen in price now, it's still definitely a great buy. No problems here at all. I give it my full recommendation still. If you have anything to add, if you have anything to say, please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, reshare this video, this would have been really nice. And if there's anything else, just let me know. Until next time, bye.